Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always, my good friend Dan Wiseman. It's another Transfer Rumour episode for you guys. I know you're gassed, but Dan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm really good, mate. I absolutely love recording these. You already know. Really excited to talk about two players that I think we're really quite fond of, actually, and a little bit closer to home as well. The last few we've sort of been cast on a net quite far out into Europe, looking at some players from Serie A and the like. But yeah, some players that hopefully people will be a bit more familiar with this time around.
Of course, you guys have all seen the title by now. You know David Brooks and Michel Alessi. I'm saying Michel because he plays for France despite being born in England, so I don't
Yeah,
know if
you
that's
might be right
correct.
there.
I maybe someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, as you guys always do. But two very exciting young prospects that are within the Championship right now. I know you guys will have all heard about David Brooks. Maybe not so much about Alessi. So we'll start off with David Brooks, Dan. Very exciting player from Bournemouth. I believe a part of the Manchester City setup at one point as well.
Mhm.
Caught a lot of people's eyes in the Premier League when Bournemouth were there, didn't he, Dan?
Yeah, he's a player who I'm surprised it took me so long for people to really clock onto because if we sort of go back through the career that David Brooks has had, I really want to pick out the in his year in 2017, which was a couple of years before he had that real big season, which was 18-19 in the Premier League, which people I think what people are going to remember David Brooks for. But what was interesting is that in 2017 he was called up to the Wales under-20 squad for the Toulon tournament. And Dan, you'll know about this tournament. It's a really interesting tournament, and it's often where you get a lot of the big breakout stars that are going to come and dominate the next 5-10 years of world football. Really, actually, they sort of start to announce themselves. And the Toulon tournament, he was called up by Wales, but later withdrew with the Wales squad because he'd been called up by England for the same tournament. So he goes to the tournament with England. England win the 2017 Toulon tournament. Brooks was given the best player of the award, which is a really quite prestigious accolade to win the best player of that tournament. He actually scored in the final. It's actually an award that Douglas Luiz won in
My guy.
2019. But previous winners of this award include James Rodriguez, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Javier Mascherano, Riquelme, Thierry Henry, Rui Costa, Alan Shearer. The list just goes on and on and on.
Never heard of
And
him.
for, I know, for David Brooks and our very own Douglas Luiz to both be in amongst that is really quite an honour. And he then gets that. He was at Sheffield United at the time, gets his eventual move to Bournemouth. And it was that 18-19 season, which was his real standout. 7 goals, 5 assists, played in 5 different positions that season, which is really interesting in a variety of formations. He was nominated for PFA Young Player of the Year. It was then, unfortunately, if you were sort of wondering where he'd been last season when Bournemouth got relegated, he missed 29 league games because of ankle surgery, which I don't think would have helped really in Bournemouth getting relegated. But yeah, it was. People are really going to remember that 18-19 season. But he's done well in the Championship this season too, hasn't he, Dan? 3 goals, 5 assists from 16 games. He actually scored yesterday at the time of recording. It's the 10th of Jan. He scored yesterday against Oldham in the FA Cup. So he's doing it recently too. 16 caps for Wales, goals against Ireland and Croatia at just 23 years old. This one seems really, really exciting, mate.
It is, and it's a position where I think, like obviously last season we did not have the depth that's all required on the wings. Uh, he can play a multitude of positions, as you've alluded to. It seems to make sense on so many aspects. He's a young player. He's. I mean, Villa surely can't be the only team that are sniffing around Brooks. Dan certainly caught a lot of eyes, during that fabled season, as you alluded to there, and is a player genuinely very exciting, and it kind of makes you wonder what it may mean for some of Villa's other wingers potentially. If you look at Anwar, Bertie, Trez, of course, Grealish is immune to all of this because, I mean, surely he's going nowhere. He's not going to his boyhood club, Manchester United, because why would he go there? But no, it is a really interesting one, Dan, and I think he would fit in the side really well. He's very quick as well, which again it is something that is extremely important, and it can't be overlooked. How and where do you see Brooks fitting into this Villa side, Dan? Who do you think? Do you think he's signed it with the mind of, look, we want as much competition as possible. He can cover plenty of positions, or do you think he's coming in and taking the shirt straight away? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the thing is with David Brooks is that he's played just this season. He's played on the right, which is his fate. You know, he's one of these inverted wingers that we know that Dean Smith loves. He's left-footed, plays on the right, but he's also played in the centre, sort of a central attacking role, and as a second striker. And we've often spoken about many players on this podcast and about the importance of versatility. And it seems with Dean Smith, it's not like the players that have come in on the wings have nailed positions. Like,
Yeah,
you know, Bertrand has played on both sides. Anwar has played on both sides. We've seen Trezeguet do it too. That fluidity and the ability to play in these different positions is important in a Dean Smith side. And so it's not as if, you know, you look at if we signed, we'd have these four wingers, two left, two right. To be able to swap them and be able to flip wings in game is an important facet of these Dean Smith teams, and especially how we've seen Villa play in the 2 seasons we've been in the Premier League. And so I think if he came in, I think, well, the problem is, you know, with the way that Anwar and Bertrand are playing at the moment, it's really hard to say who gets that spot, because Trezeguet didn't really do much wrong either, did he?
no,
Before he got that knock, and so he'll come back and feel like he's got a right to come back and start playing games. But I think ultimately, mate, what we've seen is that competition bring the best out of these players. I don't think Anwar El Ghazi goes and has the month of December that he had done if he wasn't looking and thinking, you know, I'm right down the bottom of the pecking order here. And I think he's really had to go and improve himself. And I think that competition is really important. And I think even just adding him to the mix for that reason alone could be really beneficial, not just to him, but also the other players around him as well.
absolutely. You've just got to look at as well, you know, dare I say it, if we make it into the European football spots, talking Europa League or whatever, you've got to have a big squad. And, you know, with how COVID has ravaged the squad in the under 23s, I think it's important as well that you know you've got such a squad, a strong unit just overall at the club. Again, incredibly proud of the lads who played the other night. Just to mention that again because we couldn't not. But no, genuinely, it's an exciting one, Dan, and of course there've been no fees reported yet. This has come from Neil Moxley. I mean, we're in a market at the moment where it's a selling market, to be fair, isn't it? A lot of clubs are struggling, and as awful as it may sound, you have to take advantage of the financial situations that you find these clubs in. Bournemouth, to be fair, looks set for a swift return back to the Premier League. Dan, they're doing very well in the Championship right now, but it has been well documented the financial struggles. I think they were losing anywhere between £18 million a week, weren't they? Over the past year, which is horrific. So I'm sure a deal could be struck. I mean, I wouldn't want to be paying over the odds. I think, you know, Bournemouth are certainly in a position where they could potentially negotiate a bit of a higher fee than Villa are maybe looking to pay for. But I think at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is the Dean Smith transfer policy, of you know, we're going to take these young players that have very high ceilings. We're going to develop them. You know, maybe we'll sell one or two. Hopefully, you know, keep a core of that squad and build on from the future. We're not really that team that will go out and sign a 37-year-old Branislav Ivanovic, like another, you know, fellow footballing rival in the region. But listen, it's a very exciting player, Dan. Very exciting player. Now,
absolutely,
one who I would argue is probably more exciting, to be fair, is Olise of Reading. Now, if anyone has watched the Championship this season, which some of you may have, you may not have, I do like to keep up with the Championship. Very good league. Olise has been tearing it up, Dan, hasn't he? He's an exciting one.
Wow.
But I mean, before I go in depth and explain to you why it's an absolute must that we sign this guy, I mean, how good is he, Dan?
He's really good, mate, and I think he's been the subject of these sort of Twitter highlight reels, hasn't he, this season? We've seen a lot of him, and I think the trajectory that he's currently on right now and the way that he plays, he just reminds me so much of a Berry Eze.
Yeah.
And I know that's a player who we both admire. The fact that he's doing this at just 19 years old. He was off Chelsea's academy, I think, wasn't he, Dan? And he made that switch to Reading on a free. He's gone straight from Reading's under 18s straight into the first team. And he's just been tearing it up this season. And as I said, at just 19 years old to be doing this, it reminds me so much of Eze, who's a player obviously we're not allowed to admire.
Oh yeah, no, that's illegal, man. That's illegal.
You can't admire players overseas, but he does give me that same feeling. And Eze was a player I was bitterly disappointed about missing out on, Dan. So I'm sure you're about to tell me as to why Olise is going to fill that Eze-shaped hole in my heart.
Absolutely. And he was also a part, funnily enough, of the Manchester City youth setup as well. So maybe there was a bit of crossover between him and Brooks. But there was someone who actually mentioned in the comments of one of the videos saying if we could mention, just little things that I'm surprised we never mentioned, Dan, such as height, what foot is their preferred foot, age, whatever. So, of course, here we go. Olise, 19 years old. He's about 5'8". So you can already see the comparisons with Eze in the height, in the age. And he is a left-footed player who we've seen occupy both left wing, right wing, the 10 position, and sometimes as well just kind of spearheading the attack. For Reading, of course, they're having a brilliant season in the Championship so far this season, Dan. They are sat fifth in the table. I believe they were top about a month or two ago. And doing very well. And as you say, this guy has done the rounds on Twitter. I'm sure a lot of people would have seen him. I know, just kind of judging by what I'm seeing on my Twitter feed, that there's a lot of hype about this guy, and rightly so. So far this season, he's got 4 goals. He's assisted 8 goals. He's actually the top assister in the league so far. And just to put that into some context, Dan, a player who we've spoke about in Transfer Rumour episodes, Emi Buendia, is tied second with Brian Mbuemo of Brentford and Harvey Elliott of Liverpool, who is, of course, on loan to Blackburn with 6 assists. So he's up there with some esteemed company. As I say, Reading, 5th in the Championship. Whether they'll be able to maintain that for the rest of the season, it'll be interesting. They do have a relatively young squad with some exciting players. It's good to see that Reading are kind of getting back on their feet, but if I'm being honest, I don't expect them to maintain that for the whole season. We all know what, the season of the Championship, like, it takes so many twists and turns, and you never know what could happen. So this could be an early kind of get out for Olise. And I hate to phrase it like that because I'm sure he's having a brilliant time at Reading, but a quick step to the Premier League, in January with Aston Villa would be absolutely incredible. What's he like as a player though, Dan? He, as I say, he kind of does very much fit that mold of the Eze. He's a dribbler. He likes to take these long shots. He's very audacious with the ball at his feet. So far this season, he's taken 29 shots, 14 of which on target. So around 48.3% of his shots he manages are on target, and he's averaging 1.77 shots per 90 minutes, which is good to see. You can, in the position that he occupies, and you'll see a bit later on when I do compare that to the wingers that we have at the club at the moment, he's eclipsing them. An important facet of his play as well, and the way that Reading tend to play this season, Dan, is he's a big crosser of the ball. He's made 98 crosses so far this season, which is the 9th most in the league, averaging around 1.1 per 90. And we know how important it is for Dean Smith's wingers to put balls into the box. That's just how we play. We rely maybe a bit too much on crosses into the box sometimes. We've seen Anwar, Trez, Bertie pop up at the back stick to get some goals, which, so, it's clearly an important way of how Aston Villa play. Averaging 0.48 assists per 90, which is the best in the league. 39.9 passes per 90 with 1.7 key passes on average per 90. Again, that kind of penetration from a midfielder who can kind of play anywhere, that fluidity that you alluded to earlier, Dan, is so important for a player that is going to play in this kind of Dean Smith setup. It's incredibly understated how important that is. And he has a pass success rate of 81.6, which again, very high. We were talking about that in other Transfer Rumour podcasts about how important that is, more so for the defensive midfielders who we were talking about there. But as you like a player like Olise, he's in more of a high risk area. He's going to be making these passes in the final third. So to have such a high success rate, genuinely really good. And not only can we draw some comparisons with Eze, but we can also draw some with our very own Jack Grealish, Dan, our captain, as he's actually drawn 46 fouls this season, which is the 6th best in the Championship. And opposition fans will say he's a diver, but listen, it's so important, especially with how much I think there's still room to be improved on in terms of how we score on set pieces and stuff. But it's night and day from this time last year, to be honest, Dan, isn't it? So, the amount of free kicks, the amount of corners, whatever that this man can win, the better. And as you said, this has kind of been his breakout season. He played a bit last season, only got 1 assist in the Premier League 2, the Youth League, the Under-23 League. His best contributions, I believe, was 4 goals and 2 assists, which was 2 seasons ago. I mean, he's already bettered that with his stats from this season, which is absolutely amazing. But to kind of look at where he could play, as I say, he kind of played everywhere along the front line. According to Who Scored, funny enough, his highest average match rating in a position has actually been as a centre forward with a 7.35. If you're looking at where he's going to play on the wings, at 7.26 at right wing, 7.02 at left wing, and a 7.2 as a 10. So, I mean, it's incredible that he's
Very
averaging them kind of
consistent as
numbers.
well.
Very consistent. I mean, the only anomaly in that is he has played at centre mid on a few occasions during matches, which is a 6.44. But you can tell by his build and the way he plays, he's in that kind of player, Dan, is he? So, I'm not going to look into that too much, but just to compare that, as I said earlier, to the wingers that we have at the club right now, Amar El Ghazi, he averages 16 passes per 90, 1.1 key passes per 90, has a 73% pass success rate, and averages 0.8 crosses per 90. So, I mean, he's eclipsing him here. Similarly, Trezeguet averaging 18 passes per 90, 1 key pass per 90, a 77% pass success rate with 0.3 crosses per 90 this season, which it kind of surprised me that stat did. I guess he hasn't played all too much. And finally, for Bertrand, we're not going to compare him to Jack Grealish. That would just be cruel. 17.5 passes per 90 from Bertie with 0.8 key passes per 90, 80.3% pass success rate. With 0.8 crosses per 90. But Dan, he's doubling the amount of average passes from all of our wingers so far this season, which is absolutely huge. And I mean, just doing the research, having seen him play a few times for Reading this season, genuinely so gassed to see these links come last night. And I had to text you as soon as I saw them, Dan. I'm so excited about the potential of this signing of Olise. I think he's one that would really... I can see Aston Villa for the next 4 or 5 years developing into such a fine player.
Yeah, I think the one thing that's important to note with both of these players, Dan, is that they can draw confidence from how many, and I imagine this will be in the pitch that Villa put to these players if they do go to sign them, but how many players have made that step up from the Championship to Aston Villa and successfully, just this, if you look at the likes of Ollie Watkins, Matty Cash, Esri Konsa, even the lads that were with us in the Championship, like Tyrone, who have then made that step up pretty seamlessly. They'll draw a lot of confidence from that. And especially as they fit into the mold, you talked about the amount of crosses that Olise has in his lot. He's sat, I think, 7th in the Championship for creating the most chances from crosses this season. He's a real jewel of the Championship, and as is David Brooks, really. And I think the one thing with Olise is that, as you talked about in this market where it's a little bit depressed and you can't necessarily go and have access to the phones that you would have in a normal January window, he apparently has a release clause of just £8 million. And I can't speak on whether that's absolutely fact or not, but that's the sort of rumored, if that's the sort of fee that you're talking about for this player, then it seems an absolute no-brainer in today's day and age. I mean, what is £8 million when you consider that we've spent almost 30 on Ollie Watkins? And so for a player from the same league who has similar potential at, less than a third of the price, that seems like a really good deal to me. And I think David Brooks will be the same. You probably pay a little bit more for him because he is more established. But still, I think, given that I think a lot of players would want to move to Villa at the moment, I think that is a really important factor in these deals, is that we're an appealing club to join, especially for Championship players. As I was saying, these deals I would love to see get done.
Absolutely, and he's represented France's under-23s a few times as well. Alessi has, which not the full team. I don't think. I mean, there's so many French players that would be, devastated not to make that team. The fact that someone like Aymeric Laporte, when he's fully fit, is uncapped is just an absolute joke. But listen, he's 100% one for the future. Excited about the potential of signing him and David Brooks. But I'm now going to put it to you guys, the listeners, you guys who are watching this video. Who do you think Villa are more likely to sign? Are you excited by these players? Let us know in the comments down below. I mean, Dan, I know we're gassed about this. We just want to know what you guys think as well. And if you enjoyed this video, please do hit a like. We love these transfer rumors. We love that you guys enjoy them as well. We like to hopefully teach you something that you may not have known about these players. So if you enjoyed, as I say, hit the like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more. And if the game doesn't happen on Wednesday, depending on when you listen to this, obviously we play Tottenham on Wednesday. Dan and I have said we're going to try and go live with Football Manager. So be on the channel on Wednesday anyway, and you may find something from the both of us. So yeah, as I say, if you enjoyed this, hit